Welcome to the final video in this series, where we have looked back on yesteryear at some of the European Cup's most understated and underrated champions. Imagine a small city, overshadowed by its powerful neighbours, rising against all odds to conquer the European football scene. This is the story of FC Porto, the last great underdog that took the Champions League by storm. Join us as we uncover the magic behind their unbelievable journey. With an urban area just shy of 1.3 million inhabitants, this city in the north of Portugal on the Atlantic coast is the smallest to win the European Cup, and they've done it twice, in 1987 and in 2004. Porto is a quaint city that feels more like a town. Located on the Douro River, this city has a rich footballing history, but is perhaps better known for port wine and fine architecture. The city earns its name from the harbour in which it is built. On the 28th of September 1893, FC Porto was founded. The club are nicknamed the Dragons and famously play in blue and white stripes. Despite being the second most decorated club in Portuguese history, only lagging behind giants Benfica, Porto are overlooked as a European powerhouse. Porto have won 30 league titles, including a record series of 5 titles in a row that they won between 94 and 99. Fun fact, Sir Bobby Robson was the Porto manager for the first 2 of those 5 titles. The Dragons have also won 18 cups in total, and last season, 22-23, they won the league and cup double. In 1987, Porto won a famous international treble of trophies, the European Cup, Super Cup, and the Intercontinental Cup, now the Club World Cup. In 87, they came from behind to beat Bayern Munich 2-1 in the European Cup final in Vienna. A Bayern Munich side that contained Hansi Flick, Andreas Brehme, and Lothar Matthäus, no less. They went on to defeat Ajax in the Super Cup final and Peñarol of Uruguay in the Intercontinental final to become champions of the world. Porto's 1987 global domination was beyond impressive, but today we're going to focus on their second European Cup, which they won under none other than Jose Mourinho in 2004. In fact, Porto are the last team outside the so-called top 5 leagues to lift the title. It's no secret that money in European football is now concentrated in these leagues, and even certain teams in particular. The likes of Porto and Benfica, who were once giants, now find themselves selling on their best players to the likes of Man City or Real Madrid. With that, we have lost some of the romance of the European game. Yet it also shows us just how special an achievement Porto's was in 2004, and the fact that another team outside of the wealthiest leagues has not won the trophy since only serves as further evidence for that point. Perhaps Porto's victory in 2004 was the last great underdog story in the Champions League. We hope not anyway. 20 years on and we haven't seen the likes of it since. Porto's rise was completely personified by their young, striking manager, Jose Mourinho. Some may say that he has since lost his spark or even lost his head, but Porto Mourinho was peak Mourinho. On the surface he was boisterous, arrogant and raw, but behind the scenes he was measured, driven and meticulous. He took his side from nothing to the top of European football, winning the UEFA Cup in 2003 and the Champions League the following season. His career would continue on that meteoric rise after he left Portugal. Mourinho got the Porto job in 2002, a while before the new 2002-2003 season would get underway. He stated unequivocally in his job interview that he would take Porto to the title that year, and set out his plan simply for the board. He stuck to his word. Porto went on to win the 02-03 season by a margin of 11 points. It was super comfortable. Mourinho began forming a team of fine young Portuguese talent, but he also used his great eye for a player and man management skills to bring in key squad members from much smaller Portuguese teams, the likes of Paulo Ferreira and Nuno Valente for example. Mourinho was armed with some technical brilliance too, but again this was raw talent. Players like Deco, Maniche and Ricardo Carvalho would have stellar careers, shining under Mourinho in those golden years for Porto. In that league season, Porto only lost 2 games from 36. Mourinho would end up building successful teams on solid defence, like arguably all of the best teams do. At Chelsea he won the Premier League, conceding just 15 goals in a 38-game season. He also won the Champions League with an Inter Milan side that were highly unfavoured against opposition like Pep Guardiola's top drawer Barcelona. But Mourinho had a bit of magic about him, and he knew how to organise a team. He showed the world just that at Porto. Mourinho would later go on to famously call himself the Special One. It might well have been due to a lack of great English at the time, but it suited his ability and his arrogance right down to the ground. Always entertaining, Mourinho became the golden boy of management with Porto. There hasn't been much fuss about a young coach since then. Ahead of their first UEFA Cup triumph, Porto had to qualify for the competition, and Mourinho helped with that. He won 11 games from 15 as he took over to guarantee a European place. Porto had to get through 6 two-legged ties to reach the UEFA Cup final the next year, and in truth, for the most part, they made light work of their journey. In the quarter-finals, Panathinaikos would give them a scare, but they turned the tie around in the second leg and then brushed past Lazio with a 4-1 win in the semi-final first leg to set up a final with Celtic. The final was a tense affair in Seville, Spain. In less than 15 minutes of football, either side of halftime, the teams shared 4 goals, and the game would finish 2-2 after 90 minutes. Henrik Larsson, Celtic's star striker, would go on to win a Champions League of his own with Barcelona. He was the biggest threat to Porto on the night, scoring 2 goals. But in the end it wouldn't matter, and in the 115th minute of the game, Porto scored an extra time winner. It was the Brazilian forward Derley's 12th goal in the competition, another one of Mourinho's lesser known heroes that helped him gain such a fierce reputation as a manager. Porto exploded with joy at their UEFA Cup triumph. Just imagine what the scenes would be like a year later. Porto had already won the league and would go on to win the Portuguese Cup to complete a historic treble in 02-03. They would start off the 03-04 season by winning the Portuguese Super Cup, but facing defeat against AC Milan in the European Super Cup. Their Champions League group looked far from easy. They would face Partizan Belgrade, Marseille and the mighty Real Madrid. Porto didn't start ideally either. They could only manage a point away in Serbia and then lost at home to Real Madrid. Thankfully, in 2 crucial back-to-back ties against Marseille, they managed 2 vital wins. They would win the next game at home to Partizan to take all the pressure off their last group game at the Bernabeu, where they would draw 1-1. They had felt their way into the tournament and in the group stage felt some early adversity and played against the kings of Europe, Real Madrid. They were ready. Mourinho had a long European run in his sights, but the trophy, surely even he didn't think about that. In the round of 16, Porto would face Manchester United. This tie is now remembered for some rather eager celebrations by Mr. Mourinho down the Old Trafford touchline. Porto won the first leg at home 2-1 with 2 goals from Benny McCarthy, who had a wonderfully prolific season for the Dragons. Mourinho's mad celebration at Old Trafford would take place in the second leg, when a last-minute Costinha goal snuck the visitors through to the last 8 against one of Europe's top sides. In the quarters, Porto got past Lyon of France with a solid 4-2 aggregate victory. They were now amongst the top 4 teams in all of Europe. In the semis, they would face another surprise package in Deportivo La Coruña of Spain. Deportivo had pulled off a miracle in the quarterfinals. They lost the first leg 4-1 away to holders and perhaps Europe's best team at the time, AC Milan. And in the second leg, they managed to beat the Italian giants 4-0. Both teams, Porto and Deportivo, had reason to believe it was their year. In the end, it was a tense affair, and an away penalty in Spain gave Porto a 1-0 aggregate victory. In an unconventional year for the Champions League, they would face Monaco in the final in Germany. In the end, Porto ran out comfortable 3-0 winners in the final, topping off a miraculous 2 years in charge for Mourinho. They also won the league, and but for a cup final defeat to Benfica, they would have won back-to-back trebles. It truly was an astonishing achievement from a manager and a team that were completely overlooked. Mourinho's career continued to skyrocket, and Porto's place in history had been sealed for a second time, in a European Cup campaign that a scriptwriter could not have dreamt up. And there you have it, the thrilling tale of FC Porto, a team that defied expectations and rewrote history. As we long for another underdog story to emerge, we can't help but reminisce about the heart and passion that propelled this small city's club to the pinnacle of European football. What underdog story will be next? Will we get another underdog story? Share your thoughts and prediction in the comments below. And don't forget to tell us which historic European Cup upset was your favourite from our mind-blowing series. Until next time, keep believing in the magic of the beautiful game.